For centuries, over 1,000 lives have been lost in this mysterious area, but no one knew why. Then, in 2021, a viral story emerged with shocking evidence that not only offered a plausible explanation, but also challenged our understanding of reality itself. Beneath the water lies a pyramid, believed to have been built by an ancient civilization. Its crystalline structure is said to distort reality, causing disappearances and bizarre events across the region. Now, before I talk about this pyramid that was found, let's take a little detour through history. I plead with you to stay with me, as it'll all make sense in the end. So just stick through this little history lesson. Thank you. There is a large, vague area between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico in the southwestern North Atlantic Ocean that forms a triangle called the Bermuda Triangle, or the Devil's Triangle. In such, I'm pretty sure 80% of people watching this video right now know about the Bermuda Triangle. According to an urban legend, many planes and ships have mysteriously disappeared in this area. In the middle of the 20th century, the idea that the area was especially prone to disappearances was rampant. Sailors and pilots were scared of traveling through the Bermuda Triangle, for it could be their last. The first report of strange disappearances in the Bermuda area was in a story from September 17, 1950, in several American newspapers. It was written by Edward Van Winkle Jones for the Miami Herald and was sent out by the Associated Press. At that time, the name Bermuda Triangle wasn't formed. He was just reporting a story and strange occurrences or coincidences that he noticed. That was it. 2 years later, Fate magazine published Sea Mystery at Our Back Door, a short article by George Sand. This short article was the first to describe and give a location of the now familiar triangle-shaped area where the deaths and unexplained disappearances had occurred. The writer talked about the disappearances of several planes and ships since World War II, including the disappearance of Sandra, a tramp steamer, the December 1945 disappearance of Flight 19, where a group of 5 experienced U.S. Navy torpedo bombers on a training mission suddenly disappeared, the January 1948 disappearance of Star Tiger, which was a British South American Airways passenger or BSAA airplane, and the January 1949 disappearance of Star Ariel, another BSAA passenger airplane. I mean, this wasn't just a story anymore. Something weird was happening in that area, and that got attention. One of the most sensationalized disappearances was from Flight 19, because like I said, these were trained pilots. In such, the flight leader was heard saying, "We cannot be sure of any direction. Everything is wrong, strange. The ocean doesn't look as it should." And then he said something that was weird and equally scary. "Don't come after us. It looks as though they're from outer space." And that was the last thing he said before his demise. This radio communication from the flight leader confused everyone. Who or what did the flight leader see for him to make such a statement? That question puzzled everyone. In February 1964, Vincent Gaddis wrote an article called The Deadly Bermuda Triangle in Argosy, saying Flight 19 and other disappearances were part of a pattern of strange events in the region, dating back to at least 1840. The following year, Gaddis turned this piece into a book called Invisible Horizons. Despite the stories from different writers in different generations exaggerating or sensationalizing the story, one thing was actually certain, and that was people were disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle. Over the years, people have come up with so many theories on what could be the cause of these disappearances. Because, again, these people disappearing are not amateurs. They are veterans in their field of navigation, so it has to be something extraordinary to make them crash. And even if we account for human error, after all, nobody knows everything, where are their bodies? Because sometimes the remains are never found. So, what gives? To answer these questions, a lot of people came up with theories. A lot of mysterious ideas have been used by triangle writers to explain what's going on. Some people think that there is a parallel world in the Bermuda Triangle, which causes a time-space warp that pulls things in that direction. And I even did a video where a Bermuda Triangle survivor actually spoke of something similar. For a moment, time and direction didn't exist for this pilot. All his navigation systems and his watch just stopped working. He was traveling with his father, coming from Andros Island in the Bahamas and going to Miami, when their plane and journey encountered something they couldn't quite explain. And like I said, these people are trained and experienced pilots. Plus, they've taken the same route on multiple occasions without any event. But that fateful day was going to be their last. I don't want to dive deep into that story because that will take us in another direction. But there's a link in the description below where you can watch the video to know more about his experience. Another theory is that the UFOs or aliens are to blame. Personally, I don't subscribe to that train of thought. But there is one theory that is said to be the problem. And this theory proposes that the reason that people are disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle is because of a malfunction in technology that was left over from the one and only mythical lost land of Atlantis. And before you roll your eyes and call them nuts, let's hear them out. Because out of all the outlandish theories that surround the Bermuda Triangle, this one almost seems to be making sense, because it comes with a gigantic proof in the form of a pyramid. Oceanographer Dr. Meyer Verlog was exploring the ocean in the Bermuda Triangle using sonar when he stumbled upon two huge pyramids at a depth of 2,000 meters, exactly right below the Bermuda Triangle. Not only was this discovery huge, but scientists and industry experts have been able to use other tools and devices to determine that these pyramids are both made of a crystal-like substance at the top and are nearly 3 times bigger than the Pyramid of Cheops in Egypt. According to Dr. Verlog, more research into the mysteries of the pyramid's center could lead to more information about the cases of strange disappearances linked to the Bermuda Triangle. At a press conference in the Bahamas, the scientist showed a report that had the exact coordinates of the pyramids. He also said that current science could not tell what technology was used at the time to create such a thing. When I saw this story, this reminded me of how the Yonaguni Monument was found near Japan in the mid-1980s, which is basically a whole island and civilization found underwater, which meant at one time what was considered a sea now was once a thriving land. And even though some critics still try to say it's nothing more than a natural formation caused by currents in the water nearby, they still can't explain how random geography and water currents can make intricate details on a monument, or even create steps at right angles to begin with. The one place that is not fully explored is the ocean. We still don't know what the heck is in the sea. So, when Dr. Verlog discovered what looked like a crystal pyramid, it sent shockwaves around the world. Because if that's true, that would mean we were once closer than we think, and a lot of theories we have about ourselves as a people and the Earth as a whole would all be wrong. Several scholars hypothesize that the pyramid found in the Bermuda Triangle on the seabed may have been built on land that is now underwater. At some point, a devastating earthquake or flood happened and totally changed the landscape. There's the theory that a few hundred years ago, the Bermuda Triangle area may have been one of the cornerstone activities for the people of Atlantis, and the pyramids on the sea floor may be a supply warehouse for them. It's hard to imagine what the results of a longer, more thorough study will be, but scientists have looked at all the information and come to the conclusion that the surface of the pyramid is smooth enough to look like glass or ice. This news was so shocking that it was discussed at a meeting in Florida and even talked about by local Florida newspapers. There were lots of pictures and high-resolution computer data that showed 3-dimensional pyramids that were perfectly smooth and free of debris, algae, or cracks. The pyramid could even confirm some beliefs that the pyramids were originally created as massive power sources, support the claim that the ancient city-state of Atlantis did exist, or even provide answers to the mysterious disappearances that have been recorded since the 19th century. And while this is a groundbreaking discovery, weirdly enough, this was not the first time the pyramid had been discovered. It turns out that the pyramid in the sea of the Bermuda Triangle was once accidentally discovered by Ray Brown of Mesa, Arizona in 1968. Brown was on vacation in the Caribbean. He went scuba diving with friends in an area off the Bahamas called the Tongue of the Ocean. The place got its name from the shape of the bottom, which is like a tongue that sticks out from the island and then drops off sharply into much deeper water. Brown got separated from his diving friends while they were underwater. As he tried to get back to them, he saw a huge structure rising from the ocean floor. It was a black, hulking object that stood out against the lighter water that had been filtered by the sun. The thing looked like a tower. On closer look, he saw it was shaped like a pyramid. However, his exploration and investigation were cut short because he was running low on oxygen, so he had to get back up. But he was able to take a strange crystal sphere with him from the pyramid. He brought it to the surface with him and later showed it to researchers. When the crystal sphere was studied, the researchers were astonished by its properties of electricity, which fueled the theory that this pyramid was indeed from Atlantean civilization. You see, there are some theories that what powered the city of Atlantis were pyramids made of crystal, or pyramids that had crystalline material on top of the pyramids. Somehow, the Atlanteans were able to use the electricity property of crystals to power their city, from flying ships to whatever needed electricity. And the crazy thing is, the electricity property of crystal is founded in and supported by science. Quartz crystal is the most widely used crystal when it comes to conducting electricity. Quartz can produce an electrical reaction, and because it doesn't wear down easily and can regulate electricity, it is a very useful substance for technology engineers. This is mostly used in radios, computers, TVs, and watches. There is also piezoelectricity, which is a certain type of crystal that can generate electricity under pressure. When a crystal is slightly distorted and then allowed to spring back into place, it produces a slight electrical charge. And this effect can be used to regulate the flow of electrons in a transistor. Piezo cells have small particles that are positively charged at their center. This tiny particle is pushed to move and make a charge whenever force is put on the crystal. And through this way, it is possible to use this electric field to make energy. And scientists have been working on figuring out how to use this power as an alternative green energy source. Of course, critics can say that the electricity piezo cells produce is too small to make meaningful impacts. And for now, they are right. For now, they are, because it can be done. You see, putting together many different crystals is another way that piezoelectric energy can be used. When the small charges from each crystal come together, they can create a large source of power. In high-traffic areas like subway stations and sidewalks, piezoelectric crystals are embedded in staircases and floor tiles, and then these individual generators are all linked. As crowds of people walk through the area and generate force, the system collects the energy. Individually, the small charges are insignificant, but together, they can power electronics or be stored for future use, which is another thing crystals can do: store power. The advantage of piezoelectric energy is that it is completely clean and renewable. And the crazy thing is that while we haven't gotten to massive usage of piezoelectricity, it was once a norm for ancient civilizations. They were able to use crystals as both generators and storage. In such, this was what Nikola Tesla was working on, using the pyramids in Egypt to prove that there was a cleaner, better, and most importantly, a much cheaper way for the people to use electricity. But before he could prove his theory, he was shut down by the powers that may be, and they ensured that his research never became a reality, even after his death. So, what does this all tell us? Well, it tells us that, as we suspected, something otherworldly was causing the disappearance in the Bermuda Triangle. only that it wasn't aliens or an energy vortex, but it was from a technology from the past. And if it's true, that would mean Atlantis existed. And if it's true that Atlantis did exist, then what's to say aliens, Bigfoots, Lemurians, and all sorts of other things didn't exist? If Atlantis existed, that would mean in every myth and story there was a truth, and everything existed as it was told. On May 18, 2021, a website called intermedia.ge published an article titled, "Scientists Couldn't Figure Out Anything About the Pyramids Discovered in the Bermuda Triangle." The article says that during an expedition in the 1970s, Charles Berlitz's scientific team found a strange 150-meter-tall glass pyramid on the bottom of the ocean in the Bermuda Triangle. It is this pyramid that causes the strange events that are thought to be happening in the Bermuda Triangle. However, the US government is working hard to keep this finding a secret. The website also says that in the 1990s, oceanographer Verlog Meyer found 2 more towers in the Bermuda Triangle. The story from the website had been shared by over 300 Facebook users as of May 28th, and it is still being talked about today. But it's all fake. There's no pyramid in the Bermuda Triangle. And if there was something huge like that found in the Bermuda Triangle, people would know about it, even if the government wanted to hide it. Just like with the atomic bomb testing, people saw it during its testing phase, but they didn't know what it was, and the government lied that the explosion was caused by a collision in the armory storage. But why I shared that story is that people saw it, so something this huge would have been seen before the government would come swooping in. The story has been spreading in different ways on online forums and clickbait websites since 2012, and if we go further back, we can even trace it to an American satirical publication from 1990 that made everything up. The conferences held in Florida or the local Florida newspapers writing about the news doesn't exist. In such, nothing in that story is true. This is another type of thing they post, so their credibility as a credible source is already minus 1,000. But somehow, the fake news went viral in 1990, once again in 2016, and once again in 2021. And even till now, there are some people who still believe there is a pyramid at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle. As for Ray Brown, even though he does exist, his story was all a hoax. For starters, there are some differences in the details of Brown's story depending on who is telling the story, but the main points are that he went into the pyramid, which could be anywhere from 80 to 400 feet tall, found 2 golden hands that he couldn't move, took the crystal spear from inside them, hid it from the other treasure hunters, and somehow lost most of his camera gear in a storm, which is used to explain why there are no pictures of his dive. Alright, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say that did happen. I mean, this was the 90s when every function you wanted to do or use had its own ecosystem, unlike now where everything is just merged into a phone. So, no camera for proof. But here's the thing. Brown never went back to that place. He didn't even conduct a search. Nothing was done. Brown never saw fit to return to the site with additional cameras to document it, even though this amazing structure was supposedly found in an area reachable with ordinary scuba diving gear. All these excuses from Brown make the story hard to believe, even if I wanted to believe there is a pyramid down there. Not only that, but professional scuba swimmers argue that the story is false because, with the gear mentioned in the story, he couldn't go below 100 feet for more than 2 minutes at a time. Also, treasure hunters or scuba divers can easily search an area that is shallow enough for sport diving gear, and like I said earlier, a huge glass pyramid cannot be easily hidden. If it was in the Mariana Trenches, sure, or in the Atlantic Ocean, but based on what Brown described, an object that big can easily be found by anyone. In such, the Bermuda Triangle is one of the best places for researchers to explore. They go there to study minerals, the seabed, and the Gulf Stream. They study how the ocean affects and influences the weather. The geological structure of the planet's crust deep beneath the ocean floor is particularly fascinating. Also, The Bermuda Triangle contains the Atlantic Ocean's deepest point, known as the Milwaukee Deep. Researchers have conducted numerous research and drilling operations to determine what lies a few kilometers beneath the seafloor in that area. The Bermuda Triangle is home to an incredible variety of seafloor formations, and you won't find something like it anyplace else on the planet, especially given how small the ocean region is. So, if there was a pyramid, one of the researchers would have seen it. In such, there are some witness statements that Brown himself said he made it all up to take advantage of the media attention that the 1968 discovery of the Bimini Road had caused, and Brown wanted to be a part of the attention. Well, he got his wish. And even if you want to say he forgot the location or whatever excuse we want to bring for him, don't you think by now someone else would have found it? I mean, we found the Titanic, we found SS Central America, we even found Flight 19 that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. So believe me, if two large structures were in the Bermuda Triangle, it would be found. In such, the whole thing about the Bermuda Triangle history also started like the clickbait website, a sensationalist story. The idea that there was a stretch of sea where strange things happened was picked up by authors of books about UFOs, like Morris K. Jessup in his 1955 book, The Case for UFO, and Donald Keyhole, a former U.S. Air Force major whose 1957 book, The Flying Saucer Conspiracy, made a big impact. These books and others like them built on Edward Van Winkle Jones's article, but they added and changed the level of mystery surrounding the disappearances. For example, they made up bits of dialogue, like the conversations supposedly picked up from the Flight 19 crew members, but which were never mentioned in the original reports or the full investigation that was going on at the time. Dialogue like, "Don't come after us, it looks like they're from outer space." The flight leader didn't say that. Then Vincent Gaddis now officially used the term Bermuda Triangle in an article called The Deadly Bermuda Triangle in 1964. By then, many Americans were pretty familiar with the idea that there was a limbo of the lost out there. You know how once a song starts trending or gaining momentum on social media, everyone starts using that song in their video, adding their own flavor to it? Well, that was exactly what happened with the Bermuda Triangle. Some writers saw that the Triangle story had promise, and kept adding to it, adding new cases and looking for older ones that could be put together in a casebook. To make matters worse, some of those writers got the attention of publishers who were starting to realize that these kinds of books were selling faster and better than other books. Books about a wide range of strange events or mysteries were very popular and sold well, so writers kept writing, adding supernatural elements like mysterious forces, strange conspiracies, hidden knowledge, and connections that were only clear to those who were initiated. Little by little, writer by writer, and decade after decade, the Bermuda Triangle became a full-fledged myth. But all in all, the Bermuda Triangle is just one normal place. Yes, a lot of things contributed to the disappearance of these planes and ships, but they are normal, explainable things. Many, if not most, of the disappearances could be linked to environmental factors. For instance, most tropical storms and hurricanes in the Atlantic go through the Bermuda Triangle. The Gulf Stream can also make the weather change quickly and sometimes violently. One minute it's clear, the next it's raining cats and dogs. And apparently, that is normal in the Bahamas. Additionally, when it comes to navigation, there is proof that in the Bahamas, a magnetic compass may sometimes point toward true north instead of magnetic north, because of a stronger, more accurate, and natural magnet found abundantly in the Bermuda Triangle. The magnetic north, which is found in your compass, and the physical north, aka true north, are not the same thing. They are totally different, like night and day. Until the current discovery of GPS guidance, the compass was the only way for travelers to accurately navigate the Earth. It accomplishes this by always pointing in the direction of magnetic north. However, a strong magnet can render it inaccurate. Ships back then could easily deviate from course and collide with rocks, while planes would struggle with both compass and altitude readings, causing a pilot to become disoriented and make a deadly error. which was what actually happened with the famous Flight 19. In fact, the number of supposed disappearances is relatively lower considering the number of ships and aircraft that pass through the Bermuda Triangle on a regular basis. The Bermuda Triangle is a major traffic location where everything passes through to make their journeys shorter. And even if there are accidents here and there, it is still considered lower in terms of the amount of traffic that passes through it. And if you don't believe the Coast Guard or me, at least believe the insurance companies that charge the same amount as coverage for ships and planes. If the Bermuda Triangle was a hotspot for death and disappearances, the rate would be way higher. But it is not only average, but some say it's even cheaper. And thanks to the advancements in technology, missing ships are a thing of the past. Even if the ship can't be recovered or the people saved, we at least have a pinpoint location of where it was last seen, unlike in the past where rescuers would have to search the entire ocean not even knowing where or what to look for. Better equipment, GPS, sonar, better weather tracking systems, and better communication systems between land and ship have made disappearing ships a thing of the past. A person on land can get a notice that a hurricane is coming to the area where the ship is passing through, and the ship changes course. Back then, there were no early warning systems for weather in place, and there was no way for anyone from land or another ship to communicate with each other effectively. This is why anytime you hear Bermuda Triangle stories, the victims are always from the 1800s or 1900s. Hardly would you see a case from 2010 upwards. And for stories of why certain ships or planes were not found, the answer is that the Bermuda Triangle is a really large ocean. But guess what? Most of the planes and ships were found. But the writers would never come out to retract their statement, and instead would purposely be fixated on the disappearance and not the reappearance of said plane or ship. For example, Charles Berlitz, the famous author of the book The Bermuda Triangle, and the one who made it extremely popular till today, wrote about a plane that disappeared without a trace in 1937. But in reality, it was later found out that said plane crashed off Daytona Beach, Florida, in front of hundreds of witnesses. But Charles never retracted his statement about the plane. Another incident involved the 1972 explosion and sinking of the tanker V.A. Fogg. The Coast Guard photographed the wreck and recovered several bodies, which was in total contrast with one author's claim that all the bodies had vanished, with the exception of the captain, who was found sitting in his cabin at his desk, clutching a coffee cup. So these were the issues that made it look like supernatural events were in Bermuda, when in reality, it's just a normal place. So, with this particular story of an underwater pyramid in the Bermuda Triangle, I would have to say it is false.